So a little bit of guidance for the Q&A. I'd like to hear what you'd like to answer. Everyone watch out, here it comes. Oh no, it's not too bad. Good, nice. So some prompts just to help you, now we're coming out of meditation. So here's a few questions to think along. What's the difference between doubting a teaching, doubting a teacher, and doubting yourself? Thank you, that's great. Which one causes you the most difficulty? That's something you can think of. Another thing you possibly could think about, can you think of a time when doubt protected you from a mistake? And another time when it prevented you from growing? Just having that mind which is split, is it right, is it wrong? Should I do it, shouldn't I do it? Do they hate me, do they love me? Do they hate me, do they love me? Am I right, am I wrong? Am I good enough, am I too bad? Have I got enough things or not enough things? Should I go, should I stay? That was like one Bhante pulled out. That's the vicikicca, is split mind like that. And then saddha is very opposite, it's clear. It's not divided into. So there is a microphone here, which is the big room one. So please have courage and faith. There's several articulate members in the audience. So would you like to kick off the Q&A with anything? Please, can you take the mic?
Make a comment or ask a question?
Both?
Oh, that one.
Yeah. There's no real rules, so comments, questions, sharing, personal experience or anecdotes, anything goes. There's no rules.
Yeah. So I get it that there were two kinds of doubt. One was destructive and negative, and the other kind of doubt was sort of constructive and positive. And then there is a question of how does faith relate to each of these two kinds of doubts. And it seemed to me that, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the kind of constructive doubt is within the framework of a larger embracing faith. So you have faith in the ultimate truth of the teachings. You don't really doubt the whole framework, but you doubt specific things, decisions or understanding or whatever within this larger framework of faith or shraddha. Whereas destructive faith is when you basically doubt everything without any nothing to anchor that doubt. So it's a doubt that just ends up in you postponing action because that becomes an excuse. Yeah. Rather than so this is what I understood. The gist.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that was very well articulated. So really, thank you for putting it like that. That's yeah. Just pop it on here. Yeah, this investigating with questions rather than just saying, yeah, I believe, without any questioning at all. Like somebody else's report. Yeah, I believe. Your wife's having an affair. I believe you. No, hold on. Let's have that's easy to make accusations. Let's investigate, investigate like a police force. Let's look at the evidence. Let's examine very carefully before we believe. So that investigation part is one of the enlightenment factors. That's an incredibly important thing to develop. But just doubting is just like, I'm not good enough, I don't believe, and then just believing that's true because you just thought it. And not investigating, is that true? No, is it true? Is it true? And then looking for to rebond the mind back together again and see that the mind is often split, and it's just split. It doesn't need to be split. And it's how these gave many methods, simple things. Just practicing generosity, for example, is much simpler than trying to answer all those questions. Am I gay? Should I go to, should I go to live on the other side of the planet? Do I need to learn another language? Do I need a PhD? And then I'll be good enough. It's all those, whatever questions there are in the mind, they can pull your energy apart, and you can end up destroying yourself, eating yourself alive with this thing that doesn't give you anything benefit. So how to have faith, which is solid, is based on solid evidence, personal, not just beliefs, and how to use wise investigation rather than just being negatively destroyed by doubts, and so till you become like a shell, someone who's silent and afraid to live, afraid to make commitments or so on.
I forgot I had a question.
Yes, please. Go ahead. Yeah, I noticed you snuck a bit of Sanskrit in there. So you're sneaky. This is a very, very learned man here. There, guy.
No, I don't understand the relationship between doubt and faith and this mirror gods. How does this metaphor of the mirror gods pertain to this question?
Well, in one way, when you have faith, the mind is completely unified.
Okay.
So it sees things as they are. When the mind is scattered and shattered and split, like a mirror ball does not reflect anything perfectly. It scatters it all over the place. So you can look at even someone with doubt and go, are they a friend or an enemy? Are they real? Are they, are they coming or going? Where are they? And you can similarly aim this at yourself. So the metaphor is of a mind which is perfectly whole, perfectly complete, see things as they are, very clearly, without distraction. And the other side, doubt, is like a mirror ball, which is scattered. But it's also the metaphor of light. So that it's
reflected.
When truth comes to a mind which is whole and complete with balance of those two faculties, it isn't dispersed and scattered. Like that's what happens with a mind which is full of doubts.
I think there was another important point which I gathered. The first point I wanted to make. The other is the notion of growth. And each time doubts are dispelled with experience and time, the faith becomes stronger. Yeah. So there is a kind of growth in the relationship between doubt and faith. Yeah. So actually doubt ends up, the correct kind of doubt ends up growing your faith. Correct.
So this is also called the stabilizing of the five faculties. Mindfulness is the over-governing thing, but these two, faith and doubt, need to be stabilized. If the faith is really high, but doubt is low, then you'll believe anything.
Yes.
And then, and the other way around, if it's doubt is really high and faith is really low, you won't believe even what a good, truth or a good advice from a friend or so on. You won't. So they need to be stabilized, and then they grow. The other two are concentration and energy. So this stabilization of the five faculties, the Panca Indriya, is and then it said when they do stabilize, and the other two stabilize, the energy and the concentration, then the whole vehicle moves forward. But if the faith is too high, you'll go this way. If the doubts are too high, you go this way. If the energy is too high, there's no concentration and your mind's hyper restless. And if the other way around, if you've got too much concentration, not enough energy, you just kind of like fall asleep. And so all of these are always upping and downing. But when the stabilization of them, they stop becoming just temporary faculties and they become permanently established, fixed, and then the path, you can progress along the Eightfold Path. That's the way I was taught it.
I guess what I understood, what I was meant by growth was that if you're growing, it means that the kind of doubt you have is different. What I mean is, the same doubts don't keep coming again and again. And once you've gone beyond that doubt, the new kinds of doubt of a different level.
The state of mind is the same, but the object
is stuck with the same doubts that you had beginning. That's what I meant by growth, I think.
Yeah, the topics can change.
Yes.
The faculty, the sort of tendency to doubt can keep strong, and that needs to be taken out like a poison, you know. And then so a mind which has strong faculty of faith, but it's accompanied by this investigation possibility. That's very, very important to develop this skill of investigating truth. Please, yeah, anyone jump in? It's a free mic. Please? Yeah, no. So we had the story of the Apannaka Jataka with the setting off and without any questioning, just believing someone halfway along says, yeah, throw away, you don't need all those things, just throw it away. So you might have built up sila, you might have built up a really good moral character, and then you go on a long journey to Shanghai or somewhere else and it goes, don't worry about being faithful to your wife. Yeah, you're on holiday now. Throw that away. So you throw away. And then you'll be happy. And then you wake up, oh no, what did I do? I ruined my marriage. So there's a lot of different things this metaphor for throwing water away. It can be literal, like throwing all your money away on just on somebody's advice. Say, let's go to Genting Highlands. I knew a tailor in Penang, and he was brilliant. I was so admired how diligent he was and how reasonable he was. But he saved up all the money, and then he went up to Genting Highlands and blew it in a casino. And he said he'd go back to zero and then start all over again. I was like, what's that? It's a kind of similar simile. And then the boy who was given the amulet, so he really believed that the amulet had the magic power, but actually the magic power was in him, just because he really believed in it. So then that also, taking the external authority in, that's part of faith, establishing faith. Because if something's external and all your faith is dependent on that external thing, what happens when the thing's lost? It's gone. Oh, no. So your faith is gone then. So it's very important, like faith in the teacher. The good teacher will gradually show you how to get the faith to be internal, not any more external. It's a very, very important transition point in your progress. And not to become too attached to a temple, to a teacher, to a book, to a practice. They're all those boats that we have to leave on the shore and then move beyond. It's very important. Why do you think Orpheus looked back? He was in Genting Highlands, and is my wife watching? No, sorry. So why do you think? Remember the story of Orpheus? Yeah, that one there. What does that story suggest about the relationship between love, fear, and trust? That looking back over your shoulder thing.
Doubt?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, he couldn't just wait. He had to have a check, Yeah, that was it. Gone. It's like, it's very important. And that can ruin a family, If parents doubt their children, suspect them somehow. My dad acted really weird. I'd met a really good mate, just a friend, I was also in Jerusalem. And when we got back to England, I said, you have to come round. And I said, I'll crash over the night, and then, I'm going to introduce my friend. My dad acted really weird. I think he thought we were sleeping in the same bed or something. I said, Dad, no, this doesn't work like that, But, doubt and suspicion can really poison a relationship like that. Or if the other way around, if children doubt their parents, they don't trust them enough, they don't believe in them. Or a teacher, either which way. Or friends. It's very, very important. Solid. And always checking, not just believing things. You hear some rumour, you just believe it. It's easy to start a rumour. It's easy to spread wrong rumours or false things. It's always important to check if you hear accusations or if you hear things. It's the easiest thing in the world. There's that story Ajahn Chah said, didn't he, about the chicken, that someone had been spreading rumours, and then it was all in regret, and he said, well, bring a chicken here from the market, and he said, well, now pluck all the feathers and then go and throw them all around the town and then come back to me. And he said, okay, I've done it. He goes, now go and pick up go and pick all the feathers back up again, try putting them back in the chicken. See how you can do that? And he said, no, I can't do it. He goes, well, it's the same with loose talk. You can't, once you spread it, gossip around, you can't go back around and put it back again. It's out there, spreading around, and you're the person responsible for it. So that was the way he taught someone not to gossip, like the fourth precept, parusa vaca. There was a funny story the Buddha told. I was telling Bhante this one about a monk. Basically, he really was greedy for a better kuti, and he lived next to a lake. And he came to the Buddha and he said, Bhante, there's noise. I want to move. And he said, why? He says, there's all these pink flamingos on the lake, and they're really, really noisy. I can't get to sleep, can't meditate, anything. But if he really just actually wanted really good, like wood and windows and all the money to get more materials, and the Buddha knew that, and he said, well, go to the flamingos flock and ask each one of them, ping for one feather each, ping or all for one feather, and then come back to me and tell me what happens. And 2 weeks later, the monk came back and he said, hi. He goes, how did it go? And he goes, well, all the flamingos have flown away. And he goes, yeah, that's what's going to happen if you keep going around to all our donors and saying, can you give me a bit of this? Can you give me a bit of that? Can you give me a bit of this? They'll all vanish off and they won't come back again. There's a true story in the suttas of the Buddha's humour. He's got a very dry sense of humour. So what are some examples of healthy doubt and crippling doubt in your own lives? Anyway, how can you tell the difference between one and the other?
In this connection.
Go. No, please, because then it will record in the little microphone.
Because you mentioned the story about the amulet.
Oh yeah.
And then
this one.
There is also the story about the disciple walking on water. Just thinking about what is the relationship between doubt and faith in these two cases. So, in the case of the boy with the amulet, you could say that his faith in the teacher's words have been transferred to the amulet. That is to say, his faith is actually not in the amulet so much as in the teacher's words. Yeah. So the teacher told him a lie in a sense. That the white lies on his
kind of white.
The amulet would protect him. So one can give a psychological explanation to that whole story. That his faith in the teacher was transferred to the amulet. Maybe once he overcame his fear, the teacher would have said, the amulet was all in you. But in the case of the man who was walking on water, it's really a miracle. He's walking on water. So the question is, why can't we interpret that as blind faith? That actually blind faith is working. He has so much faith. See, in the first case there is no miracle. You could explain it psychologically. That his fear. The teacher is using psychology on it. But in the case of the water, there is no psychology because unless he's seeing things that he's actually walking in water, but doesn't realize that his faith is working. So why would we call that blind faith, according to your definition?
Yeah, that one's a bit more of a joke. You can't take that too literally.
Yeah, I thought you meant it as a joke.
It's along the lines, it's sort of halfway between. It's like a lot of these, the function of the humour is make sure we don't get too much in our heads, like analysing or cinema. Otherwise we won't realise anything, because we'll be so dragging down by our too much logic and too much left brain. The function of the humour is a lot just to snap us out of it and just be in the present moment, like kids playing in the playground. Sometimes we need a bit of a refreshment. But there's that story of when the Buddha, his younger cousin Nanda, he said, like, carry my bowl a little way. If he'd actually said what he was really doing, which was he was taking him away from a very impending disastrous relationship, which would have he was going to get married to someone, and the Buddha could see this was going to be a disaster, and he said, "Can you just carry my bowl?" And he kept walking a little bit faster than him. So, because the cousin, the nephew actually, just wanted to return the bowl and then get back to the marriage, get back to the wedding ceremony. But it went on, and then it was evening time. He said, "Well, just go back tomorrow." So he ended up taking him far, far away until that he could kind of calm down and reflect. And he taught him this story about the really ugly and the really beautiful. And he said, which of these, either the scorched gorillas, female scorched gorillas, or these devas, the beautiful devas, which are most like his partner that he'd chosen. And of course it was the scorched gorillas who were actually quite, so it was like hairy Indian woman or something that he'd chosen, who he was really obsessed with. So he was able then to let go and stop being obsessed, and then his mind fogged by lust and overcome by defilement. And then he could see that actually the Arahant path was actually going to be a much healthier way of life for him, which he chose, and then he attained enlightenment, arahantship. And sometimes it's not taken literally, like the walking on water can just mean like metta. Someone who has metta is like someone walking on water. Their life becomes super smooth. When you see these very evolved beings, they're not rushing here and dashing there. They move really calmly and really serenely, even though all kinds of worldly conditions are coming at them. They can float kind of above them, in that kind of way. So it doesn't need to be taken literally, I think, walking on water. So. But often a mantra could do that for you, help you rise above things, and like that Buddho, or the just Anapanna, rise above worldly conditions. But what does that story tell us about faith, effort, and misplaced priorities? That's the sort of kind of question of that. Good. Any more questions? Is there any sort of general questions other than the one specifically about the topic tonight? Anyone like to throw it up in the air? Or observations, or comments, or sharings? Very welcome to. Sister, would you like to share anything? Very welcome. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's important. I mean, this is a sort of novel approach to showing Dhamma, because it can get too dry and too serious and too samey. It doesn't have to be. The Buddhas were a huge spectrum. He was telling Jataka stories that were incredibly imaginative and bizarre, a lot of them. And then he was teaching theory, and then he was teaching many stories, many anecdotes. And we've got a huge palette to draw from. So I think it's a shame when they're not a little bit more interesting. And nowadays we've got the projectors, and we've got everything, we've got the internet, and we've got everything. So I think it's, personally, I take quite a bit of inspiration from quite a few teachers. Ajahn Brahm was also like one of them. I saw him and I thought, wow, that's a real use of imagination that he's using, and he can really capture the audience and really hold them. So I spent a lot of time looking at his methods and reverse engineering quite a bit of that. But so yeah, hope you enjoyed it. This was the first time this talk has been in public as well, this one. No, you're the first guys to see this, so I'm glad you were sitting there all through the jokes going.
Are some of the paintings you own?
It's all, apart from the woodblock ones, they're all directed or created by me with it. yeah. With AI.
Or with the AI?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. No question. Like all of these ones you're looking at, like this one, for example. So I would give the style, like, I would say to it in that case, like Caravaggio style, like the style of an Italian painter called Caravaggio. Use the same lighting, use the same you know, oil paint and photorealistic, and then I would put the story that I want. But for every one that you see, there's about 10 or 15 failure ones where it didn't look right. Do it all again. So
many of the monks look like you.
Many of the monks do look like me. Yeah, they're
AI to use you as.
Not always, but sometimes. But sometimes it just does that by itself. That's one of the things it does. But like in that one, that everything else worked really well. But I went, look, he's put my face in there for some reason. I didn't ask it to, but it just did it. I was like, oh, all right. What the hell, you know, like that. But some of the time it's deliberate, like with this story. I never had any photos from that event, like the Stephen becoming ordaining, and so I put my photo in, and I found a picture of a person who looked very similar to him, and it got it really close. It got it really good, but there were no cameras that I remember of that event, so it was really good. Or this thing when I worked on the dome. We didn't have any cameras there, and we didn't have phones and everything. So I'm really glad I could just give it a photo of the dome. That's now a completely abandoned hotel, and I got some screenshots from that where somebody had gone around and they'd filmed that dome that I painted, and I then described the scaffolding, and I described the security guard and the event and all that stuff, and it just feels there. So that's a really good way. It can bring back memories that you never had actual cameras for. A lot of fun, you know, in a way. It's kind of a new era for that kind of thing. In the old days, like Ajahn Chah's days, you had one photo, didn't you? Like one, and it was used on your grave and your ordination and your grave. I think that was it, you know. And it always used to be terribly like hard work. When I first came to Malaysia, it was like 1985 or 4. You know, and if you had a camera and then you had to go and get it processed, you had to take your Kodak and then come back in a few days, and you got a box and pack it, and you got to take those around. Now we take it for granted. It's so easy to make things like this. Yeah. Yeah.
So, in the title, why do you say I believe in miracles?
It comes from a song. It comes from a song.
Pardon?
It comes from a song. I believe in miracles. The actual song sings, I believe in miracles.
Oh, okay.
Where you from, you sexy thing, is the next line. So, but I just thought it was catchy, and I like the idea. I remember hearing that when I was working backstage once in sort of some godforsaken rock and roll thing, you know, in some stadium, and someone said, I believe in miracles, and I went, that's funny, I'll write that down. Or I sort of kept it tucked away in my brain somewhere. But I like the idea of that, because there's a thing, there's even a book called A Course in Miracles. So you actually train in tuning in and sort of attracting miracles to happen in your life. And so there's this whole question with, particularly with Westerners getting into Buddhism, is they make it so dry and so unmiraculous and so analytical and so rational and everything. They often squish the magical and the weird and the wonderful out of it. So I think it's actually very important. And the Buddha talked about a lot of things that are like devas and past lives and things that you need to have quite a bit of trust, you know, in a lot of that stuff. I did ask that one of my teachers, Dr. Nanda, in Lunas, actually, about this. You know, like how much. He said sometimes you've just got to trust the doctor. You know, when the doctor says, like, you know, take this, you do have to just sometimes just take. You can't keep going. Is it this? Is it that? And how do I know? How do I know? How do I know? How do I know? That's like the story of the 2 arrows. You know, like when the person is shot with an arrow, and then he says, "Don't pull it out. I want to know exactly, you know, what type of wood and where the feathers came from and where the guy was standing, and was he in north, east, west, south?" And by the time you get the answers to all those questions, you're dead. So sometimes you have to sort of not, you know, put up without too many questions and just get on with it and kind of thing, you know. I'm about to go to China for the first time, and I found that with this, you know, you can keep getting more and more information, and just go, you know. Sometimes you just got to go. Like, I can't learn Chinese and then go. I'll never go. You haven't learned Cantonese yet, you know. So no, it's that's the reason. It comes from a song. I believe in miracles. So it's a play on the word miracles. There you go. I can't explain. You can't explain things too much. You just got to go with it. One step back, two steps forward. Meaning, there are too many jumps. You need to take a step back, pause. To go forward 2 steps. Yeah, that sounds like salsa. Ching, 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 ching. 1 step back, 2 steps forward. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Beautiful. That stepping back, that's the mindfulness moment. Reconsider options, and then don't just keep walking backwards. You keep reconsidering options, or you go back forever and ever. Yeah. Just don't do it standing on a cliff. It's like beautiful. Great. Is there any other sharings? Should we round it up? That's a good one. Thank you ever so much for coming out. When I saw the rain this afternoon, I thought we're not going to have anyone's going to come, but it was a miracle. The rain stopped and everyone came. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 people, nearly 17, including me. I came. That was a miracle. Yes, please. Yeah, please. There we go. Thank you. What's your name? Sorry.
It's called Sentul. It's called Tan.
Tan. Yes, yeah. Tan.
Right. So you were talking about doubt versus faith, right?
Mm.
Yeah. For me, I thought about something similar before. I feel like that one is kind of like the degree of self-trust.
Mm.
Yeah. Just wonder what you think about this.
About self-trust.
Yeah, self-trust.
Versus self-doubt.
It's about the degree of trust. So for doubt, it's more like you do not trust yourself. And for faith, it means you trust yourself. But there will be a spectrum of trust. So if you don't trust yourself too much, if you don't trust that in an action way, it will lead to doubts. It will lead to overthinking, self-negative labeling, and all that. And in another extreme of trusting means trusting yourself too much to the point that you are doing you think you might trust yourself too much that you thought that is you, but it's not you. Yeah, to the point that people will found it as arrogance. Is one of the example. Yeah.
Yeah, that's often the case, is that people believe absolutely that they are invincible, they're always right, and often they're very wrong. So you can trust in yourself too much in that sense. That's when you have this imbalance where the faith is too high, and actually the investigation of it has not matured. We should investigate: are we making the errors? Are we making is our belief in what we are saying founded? And we can check with good friends, and we can check with other ways. Reality check. We might think we're doing a fantastic job, like Donald Trump or something, but he's not listening around. Oh, actually, no. He should be having more doubts. For example, it's just getting evidence and getting feedback that's accurate as well. And that's the way that you build up. So you might think you're a fantastic singer or a fantastic musician, but when you go and play on the piano, people are going, "Can you shut that up, please? It's really terrible." But in your head, you're fantastic. So you need to have tests against that. And that applies to sort of everything, is that you need to check, with good people who can, and not also be afraid of feedback. We need to test, and we need to have verification, both ways. And if we believe that we're terrible and we're awful and we've got terribly low self-esteem, again, you can test, so am I ugly? Am I horrible? Am I repulsive? Am I a disgusting person no one's known? A good friend will say, no, you've got a lot of strengths. Like you're really good at your computer science, or you're really good at, something. And which skills you're lacking, They're just skills. They can be developed. They can be learned. So if you're not, if you find that you're not good in communication, or you're not good in, sort of approaching people or whatever it is, or interviews, there are methods for developing that skill, where the heavy doubt or the fear is about, and then you can blow that away. You can learn. You can see someone is very good at piano. Well, how did we get there? How did they get there? They're not just like magic. No, they developed it, and I can also walk that path. I can also develop those skills. Yeah, but he can drive a car. He's always going to have sort of attract people towards him. Well, I can learn to drive a car too. But what are the steps? So you can develop and find out. Everything is composed of sankharas, including the faith. You can find out what are the components that are necessary to build it if you are lacking some of those components. But don't believe in magic. It doesn't happen just by, woof. No, it has to be, everything has to be gradually put together, built up from, real elements, including human behavior and human conduct.
So yeah, I found that you talk about how mindfulness is going to adjust the balance between the faith and doubt. Yeah, and I found it very interesting because it's similar to what I thought just now. It's a balance of self-trust, and you really have to be aware of yourself to actually know where you are, and that actually takes a lot of effort to achieve that state. Yeah, I just found it very fascinating. That's my sharing.
Yeah, and that keeps on developing. It doesn't doesn't stop. Like it will keep, when they start to become balanced, then you start progressing, and then you can start sort of helping others. Like there's a nice phrase that Master Cheng Yen, the founder of Tzu Chi Foundations, they have. I think it's a very old Chinese phrase, but it's like that faith is the mother of all virtues. So that's very, very important. That like when a community doesn't have faith, they're all suspicious of each other. They all think they're all stealing from each other. They don't talk. That when you have faith in a community, and often even I saw this in the Philippines, but just going around with my empty bowl, and everyone saw that. Oh look, my neighbours I've never seen them do that. They're offering food. Like it really bonds the community together, or a temple, a function of a temple. It really bonds people together. So that's the development of faith. So out of that faith comes many virtues. The other paramis, they all come from that as well. Like sila, you start reinforcing that, and you see that people have very, very noble qualities. They come to the temple, they see other people offering dana, and they often, so on and so forth. You see a Sunday school, and they can see, wow, these people are really good. So that goodness comes out of faith. Without it, if you get a whole country or a whole town and everyone's doubting each other, women can't walk alone on the pavements because they're like, doubting that men will attack them, or, like nobody wants to go on the trains because they think they'll get robbed, and, and they think everyone's out to kill them, and everyone becomes paranoid, and, this goes worse to worse. That's when all the defilements get fed. So, so
Thank you so much.
No, at all. So it is a very big topic, and thank you for raising it the way you did. I really appreciate that. Please, do. Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I actually have like a question. I would say this is my first time. Is it me?
If you walk forward, you're under a speaker. That's it. No, if you speak, that before.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say this is my first time visiting this temple, and I came here because I'm going through a lot of hardships. I'm currently studying in university, so he was the one that brought me here.
Yeah, well done. Excellent. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I think today coming here is quite, I would say, very interesting, because the stuff that I go through and coming here, and the topic that you chose today is quite similar.
Connects. Right?
It connects very, very accurately, not just to me, to him too. And touches
any particular part of it, or just in general?
For me, it's related to, I would say, the gossiping, Rumours, like what you say about the chicken feathers.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
For him, I think it will be the reverse engineering and computer science for him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so back to my question, I believe. Okay, so I'm really going through something quite overwhelming. It's related to the rumors spreading.
Right.
I would say I took part. It wasn't with ill intentions, but I kind of did spread some stuff about a friend, and it was just ranting. Like I had to get it out, and I talked to a few people that I could trust, and unfortunately, one of them did not respect that, and it kind of got out of hand. Like he kind of spread it out, and it caused a lot of chaos, whereby not only did I lose the friend that I was kind of like ranting about, because I had to help her through a difficult situation, which gave me a lot of trauma. So I was just ranting a bit, you know. And so because of that, not only did I lose that friend, I lost a lot of people's trust, because that thing that I said suddenly became exaggerated, and it transformed into something else entirely that I did not take part of.
Yeah.
So, I did kind of talk to the person that I was responsible for spreading, and I did apologize, I did take accountability, but unfortunately, that person did not respect me, and hence recorded the whole conversation and spread it to everyone. And it's a pretty rough situation for me, and I've been kind of like, because this happened in the whole friend group, and people kind of just, without asking for my point of view, just outcasted me. And I just lost a lot of friends a lot throughout the days, and none of them really asked me what's going on, because again, the rumors that were going out were not exactly what I said, but because I had the responsibility of somewhat creating it, just things just got out of hand. So my question is, how should I navigate this situation?
So it's about damage limitation, and it's about resilience. It's about your ability to bounce back, and it's about your ability to limit the amount of self-criticism that you internally direct to yourself.
Yes.
You can't control how much those other people are going to get really like heated and you can't. It's something that as bad as happened, but it's only so bad. But you could make it internally, like pumping it up by increasingly criticizing yourself or blaming yourself as the situation escalates. But you're only responsible for a certain amount of it. After that, you're not responsible. So resilience is the ability to bounce back against anger, against self-hatred, against sort of sadness and the loss of the friendships and the breaking of the trust. So resilience is one of the most important skills, because this has happened, other things will happen, other things have happened before that you've bounced back from. So you do have the capacity, every human has the capacity, because everyone will meet some similar kinds of situations. It's not only you, so you're not alone in that, first of all, though it might feel like that, particularly if you've lost friends groups.
Okay. To provide more context, I would say my entire life in university for the past 5 years, I would say I've been constantly going through something like this for multiple times, and it got to a point where I was low-key kind of questioning whether if I was cursed in a way, like why am I constantly going through this cycle? You know, I always have these kind of thoughts, and I would think like, what's wrong with me? What do I need to improve on myself? And I just really wanted to stop, I guess, but I don't really know how.
Well, I mean, that's technical. That's like how do you stop it? And maybe you haven't got answers to those questions yet, doesn't mean that, you know, there may be specific, the people you're hanging out with, or the medium you're using, maybe the social media, or the way that people are grouping together, or there may be real answers to those that you haven't yet sort of identified. Doesn't mean you shouldn't stop. So like finding the real culprit, and also within yourself, like finding your own behavior. What am I doing? You know, there might be something that you're doing which is unconsciously attracting this kind of stuff close to you, or the danger of it. Some people might never get into that situation though, so I can't understand what they're talking about. Yeah. But you know, you may be on socializing a lot, or late at night, or on certain websites, or, you know, collecting around certain music or certain movies or something. There may be, and this can be a red flag where you can start to find answers to that. But don't stop yet. I mean, and that's also something that you do very rationally. It's like, let's rewind, you know, where did this begin, and where could I have changed this? You know, was there something that I could have controlled? And next time I'll be able to watch it, I'll be able to see it coming. You know, maybe you'd got drinking, or maybe you'd got, you know, sort of, you know, not sleeping, or whatever it was that led to less mindfulness. And then you're going to be able to change that. I had to change, to do what I'm doing, I had to change a whole complete friends groups that was getting taken in bad ways, bad company, all different kinds of things like that. So sometimes you have to take sacrifice, sometimes you have to retreat, like a lot of us sit in a lot of solitude to still our minds. Because when this happens, you know, and I've had very similar experiences where the whole world blew up over one little thing where I made one phone call, and the whole town was, you know, up in arms about it. So I deeply sympathize with you. It's very, very painful. And it's also, at your age, when you break up with friends, it can be very destroying. It can be very, very painful and very difficult to come back from. But that ability to sort of bounce back and say, well, you know, I can let go. I can let go of those friends. If maybe they weren't real friends, or maybe I had people who I probably wouldn't have been gossiping for, or maybe like somebody who records you. And, you know, you start learning about things like law. In that, I had people make accusations against me in the Philippines, and I was like, whoa, and I had to learn about law. So, hey, actually, that's slander. You can go to prison for that for 5 years. I had to speak with people and learn that there are such things as laws. If it starts getting really wildly out of control, there are laws, and laws that govern social media, and things like recording people without them knowing, that protect you. And then perhaps you need to, you know, maybe investigate some of those things, or also other people have had similar cases and see that you're not alone, you know, and just sort of learn to protect and defend yourself against your own, you know, bad habits. Maybe it was just sort of talking too much, or talking about certain subjects, you know, and just realize that, okay, I'm not going to enter into this conversation, or, you know, and reflect and learn and retrain and realize that you can also do that. It's never a curse. A curse is magical thinking. So it's, you know, a repetitive bad habit. So, I mean, I'm very critical. I criticize people all the time. You talk to anyone who talks to me quite a lot, and, you know, that's a kind of curse, because you're actually creating sort of, you know, it's kind of a bad habit. So a bad habit is a kind of curse, but it's not like a voodoo magic thing. So magical thinking is not going to help. But Buddhism, it teaches that, you know, that when there are conditions, there's outcomes. If you put the right conditions, the wrong 3 or 4 people in the room together, next it all, put it on the internet, wildfire. So there's some things to reflect on there. But that's largely about the 4th precept. You know, we have something called the 4th precepts, and there are 4 kinds of speech that are to be very, very carefully guarded about. So one is just lying, one is harsh speech, and one is slandering, which you're talking about, and the other is gossiping or nonsense talking. So those 4 kinds of speech are very, very harmful and toxic. So if you just, one of the things that was in this talk was this simply, not involving like analyzing and understanding and behavioral change. It's just going back down to practicing only these. Don't use drugs and alcohol. Don't use those 4 kinds of speech. watch out for mixing up in relationships and with other people's guys and girls and stuff, or whatever, lots of various kinds of misdemeanor with sensual pleasure, and not stealing, and not harming through taking life. Those are the basic 5 precepts. If you just really practice those, very, very powerful how much it can stabilize your life. Or just one part of those, drugs, can take you right off, and it can pull a load of these things in with it. So there's some that can help stabilize this sort of, doubts and, what's going on as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Reassured now, in a way, comforted.
Yeah.
Like when I entered and I heard you, like, we're talking about something, I think, like,
Picnic, is that?
yeah, I believe it when the lights were off just now, like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like listening to it, and I was like, wow, that's very calming.
Yeah. Well, there's reasons to be reassured. In a world that's chaotic and it's unfair, or there's curses flying around, that's a very unstable and unassuring world. But there is the Dhamma gives you safety. It's a path of safety and taking you away from harm. Takes you away from bad company, takes you away from bad habits, towards a nice, stable, secure path. That's the description of it. So keep going. Well done for bringing your friend in, and a very good friend who does that, by the way. He could have taken you anywhere. He could have taken you up to a crazy place or something. He brought you here, and this is cool and calm, and where you can feel understood. Yeah, it's about 10 o'clock. It's way past your bedtimes. What are you doing up? Straight to bed. No, I'm just joking. All right, so I'll do a blessing for the rounding up of our talk. Bhavatu Sapa Mangalang Rakhantu Sapa Devata Sapa Buddha Nupavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Sapa Mangalang Rakhantu Sapa Devata Sapa Dhamma Nupavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Sapa Mangalang Rakhantu Sapa Devata Sapa Sangha Nupavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te Sabityo Virachandu Sabaroko Vanasatu Mate Pavatwantarayo Sukhidi Kayuko Pava Abhivadana Silisa Nityam Vata Pachayino Chataro Dhamma Vadanti Ayuvano Sukhang Palang. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everyone for attending. So I'll do what I can do to make a video of this evening with the talking and with the complete video, and I'll share the link through. Do you have a Sentul group? No? Anything like that? Somewhere I can share the link to. If in doubt, go to my YouTube page. I'll just quickly show you where it is, or what it is. Hopefully, just quickly, for those of you who know how to do this, just go to YouTube, and so my video channel looks like that. Ven space Rakkhita, and if you just click on that, as far as I'm aware, you'll go to my whole stuff. So like my videos, including this one and other ones, are all there, easy to click on and play. Lots of other ones like this. And the live versions and the Q&As and things like this. Okay? So thank you once again for coming out, and don't hesitate to ask me back or complain, as the case may be. Thank you all once again for coming out. Thank you so much for making the effort, and I really do appreciate your presence. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.